the numbers all go to 11.
I'm talking about bands that rock. Led Zeppelin. What about Sabbath? AC/DC. Motorhead.
Does that mean it's louder? Isn't it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
I get up off the ground and raise my head. Days like this, think I should be dead. One for Satan, two for me. Let's cheat the devil, it's fun, don't you agree?
Welcome to the Nothing Shocking Podcast. I'm your co-host, Bob Zarrell. With me, as always, is
Coach Nez.
Visit us at zpnetwork.com, zoixonline.com. We're on Facebook at the Nothing Shocking Podcast community and page, the Quad Cities Rock and Roll Junkies interest group. Our Twitter handle is No Shock Pod. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or not on Spotify yet, Stitcher, all your podcatchers, and then Rock Rage Radio Sundays at noon. Sponsors are
Ragged Records, new and used, Davenport, Iowa, and Rock Island, Illinois. Legends Guitar Picks out of Milan, Illinois, and RockstarPicks.rocks out of Queens, New York.
As always, I want to thank the band Hong Kong Sleepover for letting us use their music. They got a new album out called Butcher and Bolt. It's phenomenal.
Heavy.
Yes. Just all around, like Black Label Society meets Motorhead. It's just awesome. Our guest this week is Martin Atkins.
A Pigface, Ministry, Killing Joke, Murder Inc. We can just go down the list of all the things that Martin's been involved with, but primarily Pigface, and then all of his work. He's also he works as an instructor at SAE
And Millikan University. And he's a author. He's does a lot of speaking tour. I mean, he's just a fantastic mind for the music industry. Which you'll hear on this interview. It was a lot of fun for me to have that conversation with him. Not a lot of artists want to go that direction. They want to keep talking about art and leave the business side alone. But he does a good job of combining the two, and I think that's what really, if you want to make it today, you need to be able to really listen to this episode, read his books, because that's
well, he almost creates an art out of the business side,
right? You almost have to do that today to make it. And, you know, there are some artists that are great at it and other artists that want nothing to do with it. And it's just like, all right, whatever, you do you. But I found this interview fascinating, and I don't know, I liked it a lot. He is promoting his coffee,
yep.
darkmattercoffee.com. If you buy his brand, what's it called? Get the fuck out
of bed. Yeah,
get the fuck out of bed. $5 goes towards. I believe it was a coffee shop / record store that burnt down out in the Chicago area. I
believe so.
Yeah. A friend of his lost their business basically, and this is going to help them. You know, just get something back there. So I bought some. I'm looking forward to trying it. I'm a big coffee fan. But yeah, and Pigface is
They're gonna reconvene in November. Did he say?
Yeah, it's all at the end of the episode. I just wanted to bring it up here in the intro as well. Anything else?
No, not. Oh well, Record Store Day. If this gets released, this week, which it should, Record Store Day is April 13th, Saturday. Visit your local record stores because that's where I'm going to be on Saturday. Are you going?
No, I'm maybe.
What?
I might go. Depends. Kids, man. Kids are. Son's in 2 different baseball leagues. My daughter does soccer and gymnastics. If I'm open, I'm going to go.
Right.
That's the thing. If I'm open or not, I don't know.
So this is where our listeners. This is where they maybe can get a feel of where we are at in our personal lives. Bob has small children or grade school age children.
Right.
My children are 21 and 17 years old, so I'm almost an empty nester. My daughter's finishing up high school next year, but she's involved with, orchestra, band, marching band, and theater and things like that. So, but they're not as prevalent of all those practices for baseball and soccer and gymnastics that you have to go through. And my son is all grown up and he's got a career and everything. So,
yeah, it's this episode. I almost had 2 different practices tonight. Luckily, it all worked out. It was raining, and so they were canceled. But before we get to the interview, obviously, I want to talk about Chicago Open Air Festival, May 18th and 19th, SeatGeek Stadium in Bridgeview, Illinois, right outside Chicago, where the Chicago Fire play, the soccer team. Fantastic lineup, System of a Down, Tool, Ghost, Gojira, In This Moment, The Cult, Code Orange, a ton of other great bands. I cannot wait for this festival. Danny Wimmer Presents puts it on. They do Rock on the Range. They do Louder Than Life. I'm going to that, too, in Louisville, Kentucky. Guns N' Roses are playing there. Stain's getting back together. Slipknot's there. Disturbed, Marilyn Manson, Rob Zombie. They're doing great things for the music industry. So if you want to get your tickets, you can do so in the show notes. Also, I'll have a link to the coffee place in the show notes, darkmattercoffee.com, where you can pick up get the fuck out of bed coffee. We try not to swear in the intro, but we're just using the name of the coffee.
Yeah.
But otherwise, ready to throw it to the interview?
Absolutely.
All right, good night.
Good night.
Hello.
Hey, Martin, this is Eric Nesbitt with the Nothing Shocking podcast.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, doing
Can
well.
you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Hey, I want to introduce you to my co-host, Bob Zerl.
Hello.
Hey, how are you, Bob?
I'm doing good. Thank you for taking the time to do this with us.
Yeah, I know this has been.
Yeah.
I know this is kind of like a last-minute thing, but hey, thank you for the correspondence today, because I know it was kind of like thrown on you at the last minute, but hey, thank you so much for your willing to participate.
Oh, no problem. Where are you guys based out of?
We're in Moline, Illinois, Rock Island, kind of the Quad City area, Davenport, Iowa. I don't know. I mean, if you're familiar with the area or not. It's Western Illinois.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. So, I guess the first thing to kind of start off with here is that I guess maybe not many people realize that, you teach. Are you still teaching at Columbia College right now? Is that where you're at?
No, that was the first place I started teaching maybe 16 years ago.
Oh, okay.
I became the music business department chair at a school called SAE in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And then I put that program together. And then more recently, I'm the music industry coordinator at a university called Millikan in Decatur, Illinois.
So, I know Millikan is located in Decatur, like you said.
Yeah.
Where are you residing right now between these two places?
Right by the White Sox.
Oh,
that's where my label is. That's where the office is. That's where the house is.
Oh, very good.
So I come down here for a few days each week and try and kick things in the pants.
Excellent. Well, like we said, not many people realize that you're a college instructor and your involvement with Pigface. I guess with so much going on, it seems like you might be stretched a little thin right now. Is Pigface right now something that you're doing on the weekends, or how does it all work for you?
Excuse me. Well, I haven't done Pigface for 14 years.
Oh, okay.
We did one show at the House of Blues in 2016, the 25th anniversary show, and we're putting together a tour for November.
Oh, okay. So that's where I misread things. I apologize for that.
Right. But, I mean, I don't know about being stretched thin. I mean, the more I do, the more I can, we're doing a music business conference here on the 3rd and 4th of May, Friday and Saturday, and people are coming in from all over the state to participate in the Business Expo and talk on panels and meet people and perform. So that's kind of a big thing. But students get to run that stuff, I'm also working on my 4th book about my time in Public Image Ltd. I mean, I'm doing a lot of stuff, but I don't feel like I'm stretched thin. I just feel like I'm busy.
Yeah, absolutely. You're also a guest lecturer in various education institutions around the United States, even also abroad as well, overseas. Can you kind of give us an insight of your guest lecturing? I guess maybe your tour of guest lecturing?
Well, so yeah, I mean, the different parts of the world are emerging in their thirst for knowledge about the music business. So, I've done the last 12 South by Southwest as a featured speaker. And I was just in Medellin, Colombia, Brasilia, Santiago, Chile, London, Manchester, England, Tokyo, New York, LA. I mean, I go all over the world speaking. Sometimes it takes a few days, takes a day and a half to get to some of the places where I go and speak. But I like to do that. And once again, it opens up opportunities for students as well to either come with me or get some kind of exchange going on. I'm working on an exchange thing with a university in Scotland and a festival in Santiago, Chile. So we'll start to have students from there come here, send our students there, and get some really good exchanges of ideas and information and culture.
Was that something you were always interested in, like the business side of the music industry, or is that something that just kind of pop up, the opportunity to get into business or music business education?
Well, just music business in general, I got interested in because I saw when I was a member of Killing Joke, I saw how badly managed that band was, and what a nightmare some of the touring was because the agent was shit. And so it just seemed like, wow, a few of these little business things could make the life of the artist, and I was the manager and I was the artist in the end. Some simple stuff could make things really way better, And so I just started to get involved with that. And then I had some musical projects that nobody wanted to put out. And strangely enough, Pigface was one of those projects. And I started my own label and just started doing that myself. And then because I had the label, I started giving all of my money to studios around Chicago. And pretty soon I was like, screw this. I should just build my own studio. So I did that. And then the whole idea of teaching kind of happened by accident. I went up to Columbia College in Chicago to get some interns to help with a big tour that we were doing. And they said to me, hey, when can you start? And I said, I can take students right now. I can take interns back to my office. And they said, no, when could you start teaching this stuff? And so I started to teach the business of touring because it's what I've done most of my life, And there wasn't a textbook written for it, so I wrote a textbook, and that became an Amazon music business bestseller. And just one thing led to another. I didn't decide to get into writing books, public speaking, or education. I just kind of love it, to be honest.
The music industry has kind of changed, while you were doing all this. Was that, does the education change? I mean, or are the ideas still the same?
Well, there's one idea which is still the same. It's like, you're fucked, and you better use every single thing at your disposal creatively to pull something out of the bag. Right? And that's true in any startup business. Mm-hmm. It's true for a band on the road. It's just same old, So once you start to look for and come up with solutions to problems, that's all it is. Whether it's people selling vinyl or cassette tapes, or forget that we're doing CDs, or forget that we're doing downloads, or forget that we're doing streaming, or forget that we're doing vinyl again, right? all the problems are still the same. How do we put 16 people on the road with Pigface? And how do I pay for the immigration 9 months before we do a single show and sell a single ticket? How do I get people to pay attention? How can I delight my fans? How can I keep myself interested? You know, it's all the same. It's all the same problems.
But as those,
I think
go ahead.
The biggest problem is when people just start complaining that things are different, and things are always different.
How has, social media, is that something that was easy for you to adapt to, or was that something that took a little effort?
Well, I still have an AOL email account. I mean, I've got some Gmail accounts as well, but I keep my AOL account because I was an early adopter, I started, I teach social media stuff now, so that's a great way of getting to grips with anything, is to teach a class in it, So as soon as I started teaching Facebook and crowdfunding and Twitter and all this other stuff, then it's like, well, you're doing it all the time, and it's kind of part of your job to pay attention and learn some tricks and tips and kind of master these areas, But man, when I started, when I came up, it was all postcards and everything was mailed out, and then the internet came along, and it's great. You can send somebody a file or all the materials they need to make their own ad or their poster. It's really cool. But weirdly, what really makes an impact, once again, is sending things to people in the mail.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I agree completely. One of the things that I find weird about the social media is that, growing up, you had that mystery behind the bands I was into. You didn't know much about them. You had to read the magazines, and even then, it was word of mouth and stories. Now you can see what your favorite artist is eating for dinner, and I don't know. It's nice that you have that connection to the audience, but at the same time, you lose that mystery. As a fan, where do you fall in terms of what do you prefer?
Well, I think you only need the mystery if you're a fucking asshole. And it's like, ooh, where is that person? I don't know, but it's like, they're in the hotel room being an asshole, and then they're going to go out to dinner and be an asshole. That stuff just doesn't work anymore. And, we make ourselves available to fans. I just did the speaking tour to talk about my time in Public Image. And, my mom came out to the event in England. Different members of different bands came out to chat with me. And it was a really kind of a personal thing to have all these photographs and bits and pieces of memorabilia on the screen and just talk like a person with people. I think if you're an asshole, it just doesn't last very long anymore.
That's true. The Motley Crue movie just came out, and everybody, a lot of the bad reviews are about how it doesn't hold up in 2019, and a lot of the bands that are out there now, they're doing yoga on the road, they're eating healthy, they're not out there being stupid. So yeah, that's a very true point that I didn't even really consider.
Well, we used to, the constant battle on the road was like, we need more beer, we need more vodka, we need more wine, we need more this. Where's the tequila? Where's this? Where's that? And now it's like we need 5 more cases of water, I know people who really go at it on the road. They abuse themselves and probably other people too, and it's really difficult. It's really difficult to do that. I think you paint yourself into a corner. I've been lucky because I'm a drummer. I'm a really physical drummer. So I have to be really careful about myself. Especially now, I turned 60 this year. I've been doing this since 1979. And I just have to be really careful these days.
Well, that kind of brings you to the next question. And on the business side of things, in our area, we have a hard time having our community support shows that come into town, whether it be at the Civic Center where we're at, or just the local clubs, or even our kind of mid-range Adler Theater here. And last Wednesday, I attended a show at a small club, and it had guitar player Ryan Roxy of the Alice Cooper Band and Joel Kolsha, formerly of Collective Soul. And it was the Planet Axe tour. And I think, that night there might not have been 100 people at the show. That being said, they make all these different excuses why people are not coming out to shows. I think the show was like a $12 for a ticket for it. That being said, people blame technology, social media, whatever you can think of why the people are not showing up to shows. But what are your thoughts and theories on why is it such a struggle for people not attending concerts and local shows like they once did?
Well, it used to be, it was just one of the things people did all the time. It was just part of the culture. You go out Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you go to a show midweek, and it was ingrained in people to support the scene. And now there's so much stuff to do, probably half of what the audience used to be. They're working another job if they're lucky enough to have another job, maybe they don't have, $12 doesn't sound like a bad deal, to be honest. But, maybe they don't have $12 and money for 3 beers, so it's tough. I thought, well, $12 sounds cheap, but if people don't have $12, then maybe what you got to do is look and go, you know what? Would we rather play to 100 people, who each pay $12, or 300 people who each pay $4?
Right.
Or, fuck it, what if we make it free? Will the club make enough money on beer and parking, and will we make enough money on T-shirts and goodwill that we can make a go of this? I've worked for 27 years on my band's reputation, Pigface, of like, holy shit, you shouldn't miss this show. It's going to be insane. And I can look at the economics of it. I wrote a book about touring. I teach classes in touring. But one of the things I teach is, like, here's how to run a budget. But now you also need to pay no attention to the budget. You need to pay attention to delighting people, surprising people, amazing people, right? If I was managing Gua, right, you can't tell Gua to cut it down to just 2 band members and a drum machine, right? That would make the budget look fantastic.
Right.
But it would last like a week before everybody's just like, screw this. This isn't Gua. This is the lo-fi, low-budget version. So you have to find a way to amaze people and deliver. And I'm still running strategies and finding ways to make things work, right? I just put a new ticket package on sale where for just a little bit more than 2 regular tickets to see Pigface, you get 2 T-shirts, which you can't get anywhere else. You get a special red vinyl 7-inch single. You get 27 songs on a download and $66 in coupons to spend at the merch booth, and invitations to secret events and a secret show at the end.
Wow.
So then now I could save money and say to people, hey, we're playing in Davenport. Sorry, we're not, but we're playing in Davenport. We'll save money and come and pick up your package of T-shirts and other stuff at the show in November. But I'm going to mail these packages out. We've already sold 300 pairs of tickets for shows in November. I'm going to mail those packages out in 2 weeks' time, right? It's going to cost a bloody fortune, but each one of those packages is going to have a note from me hey, Steve, here's your package for the blah, 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 blah. See you in Denver. See you in Atlanta, whatever, signed by me, right? And everybody who gets a package is going to talk about it. Maybe some people will take a picture of the package because I'll put some extra shit in there, right? And then those people will talk about this stuff on the internet, and I'll sell another wave of tickets because I'm delighting people, and I'm treating my audience like an audience and like people, and I'm treating a November tour like it's fucking warfare, because it is.
That's awesome. I mean, you hear about, the meet and greet thing and all, things like that. Only this is way better than any meet and greet package I've seen, the way you're describing it. But right. It seems like most artists that are doing it out of necessity and not because they want to, and that kind of defeats the experience sometimes. I've noticed that with certain meet and greets I've gone to. They don't really want to be there. They just kind of have to be there.
Exactly.
Right. And so, what's the point? You're just making things worse. Right? Better to be mysterious then, right? So, I mentioned in an email, I'm like, listen, there's going to be some secret events. I had this crazy idea to make Pigface beer, and this brewery in upstate New York contacted me, and a brewery in Illinois contacted me, and now we're working on Pigface beer, and we'll just give that to people, right? So it's like, the more you just talk to people and fantasize is the wrong word. Talk about the things you want to do if you could. There are people there with breweries, businesses, sitting there thinking, oh, I'm fucking bored. I wish I could make a beer for somebody like Pigface, right? And so the brewery's happy. I'm happy. The fans will be happy. Like, who doesn't like free beer, And so it's just because we're used to going the extra mile and trying to really delight people. Well, we did the one show in 2016 because people bought tickets directly from us. We knew where everybody lived. So there's a program called Z-Maps, Z-E-E-M-A-P-S. And you can take all the zip codes on a spreadsheet, throw them into this program, and it puts dots all over the map where people are. And it was fantastic. I saw that people were coming from all over the country to see us in Chicago Thanksgiving 2016. And I thought to myself, wow, I bet people aren't going to fly in that morning, because the show was a Friday. They'll fly in Thanksgiving Day or the day before. I wonder what they're doing for Thanksgiving dinner. So I called the people at Reggie's in Chicago. We were playing the House of Blues. I called the people at Reggie's. I said, could we do like a secret warm-up show with you? They're like, fuck yeah. I'm like, all right, what would it cost for your kitchen, which does great mac and cheese, to do like mac and cheese but with like turkey and do like a Thanksgiving spread? They said, well, we could do that for about $10 a person. So then I emailed everybody. I said, hey, you're all coming in from out of town. It's Thanksgiving. Come and join us for a secret warm-up show. And we can't give you free Thanksgiving dinner because I'm not fucking Donald Trump. But for $10, the club have agreed to put this spread on. And it was fucking great. And it just created this whole community. We were just talking to everybody. I kind of enjoyed that show more than the House of Blues show the next day, which was sold out. And so you either want to do this or you don't, And if you want things to be the way they used to be in the 80s, I mean, that shit's over.
Well, that kind of brings up the next question. And we've talked to many artists on the podcast, and they talk about creativity and how they package physical copy, vinyl, CD, whatever. How important it is now to be really creative in how you package the hard copy of your choice of album, what have you. Where as far as this comes into play, where are your thoughts and theories on how do you properly package your physical product without breaking your bank, because sales are not what they were in the 80s?
Right, but here's the thing. So we just reissued the first Pigface album. Well, it was like 2 years ago now. We had it double vinyl, printed in a gatefold sleeve, but the sleeve is what they call reverse stock. So it's kind of like not glossy cardboard. It's nice, but it's not glossy, which means you can still print on it. Right? It's not varnished. But the back of the album and the two inside panels, those are really nicely professionally printed. And then we printed glow in the dark, and then this big hand from the first Pigface album cover across the front, and then it's signed and numbered, and that sells for $60 a piece, right? So if I sell 300 copies of that, that's $18,000. That's the equivalent of 4.5 million streams. So, but the difference is we do that. If you're a band and you don't know how to do shit, then you're screwed because you're paying somebody else, another artist, to make cool shit for you. And what you need to do is teach yourself how to screen print at the very least, make your own T-shirts, make your own posters, make your own limited edition packaged albums, CDs, cassettes, whatever. Make your own scenery. That's what we do, and start to be in control of your own destiny. If you're spending all the money that you're making, paying an artist to make cool prints for you, well, that's cool that you're supporting a local artist in town, but it doesn't get you to where you need to go, does it?
Right.
So you need different skills, and it's not just the traditional skills. You need social media, web, video, but you also need other stuff as well, like cooking, basket weaving, screen printing, and put your album in a album jacket woven out of a basket. People go nuts for stuff. It has to be appropriate for your band, right? Which is also a really good exercise. You have to think about, what is my band? Who are we? Does the package need to be smooth and shiny and furry and make you want to cuddle up with it? Or should it cut you? Should it be abrasive and smell bad and send you to the hospital? And so these are like exercises in defining your brand. And so, for the band whose album should be in a woven basket, that's amazing, right? And people will be like, oh, fuck, I'm going to buy two. It's worth $80, right? And, you're just creating this experience and making these objects for people that make their experience, that amplify their experience of enjoying your music and knowing you.
Exactly.
One of the things I see bands struggling with, and it kind of goes back to the concert Eric just talked about going to, Ryan Roxy and that version of that tour has been here 3 times in a year. How do you, a lot of bands have to over tour and they're coming to the same town over and over again just to stay out there because that's all they have. They're not doing side projects. They're not doing other things in the industry. How do you stay active yet keep, make the fans miss you a little bit so that it has to feel like a special event?
Well, first off, you have to understand, and by doing 5 different things, right? If there's a bass player listening to this, right, there are some, and I'm not picking on bass players, I'm just using it as an example. If all you're doing is playing bass, and in your spare time you're practicing bass, it doesn't matter, because there's a better bass player than you in China right now, 6 years old on YouTube shredding, right? Mm-hmm. What you need to do as this bass player is learn how to make your own blackberry jam. That's an example I like. Basket weave, screen print, whatever. And so then you make this amazing release of bass solos in a special woven bag, right? And then the next time you go play Davenport, you know, maybe you do an event in the afternoon at the university, and it's like my woven basket album project, how I'm still making a living by doing these things, right? It's and your conversations are more interesting, because if I come up to you in a bar and all you're doing is playing bass and practicing your bass, that conversation is going to be fucking boring. But if you're making your own jam, weaving a basket and lecturing around the country of basket weaving album artwork insanity, it's like, oh, fucking hell, I was just in Davenport, Iowa, and fuck, I've been there 3 times doing this lecture, and I keep driving past this club, and I should really play there, right? Or maybe this guy from the guy from Alice Cooper's band, I've forgotten his name, sorry.
That's all right.
Maybe, you know, I've been to Norway 5 fucking times. I haven't done any Pigface shows or played my drums. I've just been talking about the music business and helping entrepreneurially, helping them with ideas about going from a fishing-based economy to an oil-based economy and a culture-based economy, you know, which is a bunch of things that the American cities are going through, Decatur here especially, and it just makes you more interesting. And the next thing you know, like this happened to me, right? I write a book, I go around the world speaking, and it's been 2 years since I even played my drums, right? So it's time for me to write another book, and now I can look at my career and the options I have, playing my drums, doing Pigface, producing someone's album in the studio or doing a remix, right? Releasing some stuff on my label, teaching, printing scenery and T-shirts, whatever. And when I go back to these things, I'm like, whoa, I fucking love playing my drums. I haven't done it in 2 years. I can be really enthusiastic and like rediscover it. And people are interested in that enthusiasm, right? If all I ever did was play drums, I'd be a good drummer. You know, I'd probably be a better drummer than I am now, but I'd be as boring as fuck.
Very, very true.
So I was just in Tokyo speaking. I was just in Manchester and London speaking, you know, and all anybody asked me about was like, oh, when are you going to play the drums? And great, it's time for me to go play my drums, you know. So you've got to do more than one thing. And it seems crazy that this guy you just saw, to go to Davenport 3 times in a year. I mean, nothing against Davenport, but what the hell?
Well, in fairness, the owner of the club's in his band, so there's more to the story, and I think it's more of an opening kind of, you know, he's warming up for his shows and he comes here, but
true.
It's still, I've seen that with other bands too, where they're always oversaturating their own market. But your point is right on.
It's your job as a musician, as an artist. It's your job to stay special for your fans, and you know. So if you're crazy and you never sleep and you're always thinking and you're always making stuff and you're a magician and you're a chef and all this other stuff, then that's great. Maybe you should play Davenport 3 times in a year, and every time is a new exploding pie recipe, you know, and it's what's going to happen this show, right? But, you know, so you have to try and get new fans, of course, but it's also your fucking responsibility to not, what's the word? To not not ask your true fans too much of them, right? You know, to come and see you do the same songs again. If you want to do a completely new set and it's a tribute to Johnny Cash and you've got 4 songs on an EP and a kind of a cool Your Band Meets Johnny Cash t-shirt, and it's fun, and 2 other bands do covers of other bands, that's great. You could do that, but don't just come back and do the same fucking set. It's not fair on your fans.
Absolutely. I kind of want to take this a little bit of a different direction. You know, you've been in the business a long time, and you've worked with some of the most eccentric frontmen: John Lydon, Al Jorgensen, Trent Reznor, Jazz Coleman. Big egos. How has that kind of affected you and cultured you in the business from all this time with dealing with such big persona?
Well, I mean, I think in some ways it spoiled me, you know, to sit, you know, sometimes in front of 10 or 12,000 people behind Johnny Rotten. I mean, that guy, especially the period that I was in the band, 79 to 85, that guy's charisma was just off the charts, you know. And people on the radio, managers, people on TV talk about charisma this and charisma that. Not many people have got that real charisma, which also has a very dark side, by the way. But John really had that. Al Jorgensen has that. Jazz Coleman, people who, you know, people who could just magnetize an audience. You know, all of the people who have been in Pigface, my goodness. You know, I think it's taught me to deal with that eccentricity stuff a little more easily because I'm used to it, right? Like, okay, here we go with this bullshit. Maybe now isn't the time to mention it, but I'll have a word later. Or how can we avoid this happening again? What tools do I have in my management belt, my dealing with people belt that I could help alleviate some of this pain? You know, but I think it's also made me aware of how precious these gifts are, and I think some people naively think that they're just going to work with people who are respectful, clean, punctual, and nice, and you don't always have the choice to do that. And even if I did, I don't know that I would make that choice. I like being in bands with difficult people because they make for interesting situations.
Oh, very good. I know that you've worked with Ogre. You had the album Beside Toxicology. Was that the first project Ogre did outside of Skinny Puppy working with you? I know that was kind of like a unique... can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a pretty interesting relationship with Ogre. He was in Pigface at a time when he was having some really big problems, which we don't need to go into. I'm sure that people who know about Ogre's problems know about Ogre's problems. And so when he came out to work on that album, he wasn't in great shape, and I didn't know what to expect. And I was actually blown away by his talent. There's a track on the album called Scarecrow, which is the guy from Pink Floyd, I've forgotten his name, Syd Barrett. Mm-hmm. It's a Syd Barrett song. And Ogre walked into the studio, pulled out an acoustic guitar, and just played that song. And I had no idea he played acoustic guitar, you know. And I really liked working on that album with him. And for a few years after that, I would always call him up before a Skinny Puppy tour and say, listen, you don't need any of the special effects or the makeup. Just turn on all the lights and walk out with an acoustic guitar and play that song. And people will think it's a magic act because nobody knows you play the guitar, you know. But yeah, it was a really, there've been some really interesting creative times at my label and in the studio, and that was certainly one of them.
I know that, you know, a lot of people kind of, we had Tim Skold on a while back, and he talked about his work with Ogre as well, how much he felt like he was underrated creative genius. Do you share those same sentiments as well?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, that's difficult, because he's in a band with Kevin Key, and Kevin Key's a really talented guy doing all kinds of things. So I'm not sure that there's room within that for Ogre to do his thing. I mean, personally, I'd love to see Ogre just tinkering around on his own, with a 4-track tape machine. Like, I don't know. I don't think anybody would care about the quality of the finished recording, except it would just be honest and interesting, I think Olga's one of the few artists I can think of who fans would let him do that, I think the stuff he does with Mark Walker is really interesting. But I think, I don't mean this to sound wrong. It just came into my head. I think Ogre is underrated,
Absolutely.
mainly by Ogre. And I think he's a immensely charismatic, powerful person. And I haven't spoken to Ogre in, it's probably a couple of years now. But that just came into my head when you said that. I'm like, who the fuck am I to psychoanalyze anybody? But, that just popped into my head.
I got one more question for you because I know you're getting close. You have a class to teach here pretty soon. Your release, Opium Jukebox, you had released some material from 2000 to 2004 or 2002 or whatever, the instrumental cover tunes. I thought it was really, really cool. Is there any chance of those type of things, projects coming back in your wheelhouse anytime soon, or is that just something that's in the past?
No, I really loved that project. So I had my studio in England for a while, and we did the Damage Manual album, and that was, 16, 18-hour days. I produced it and engineered it for the most part with Jason McNinch, who also worked on the Ritalin album with me and Ogre. And it was just so brutal that I wanted to do something completely different afterwards. And I did the first Opium Jukebox album. And Bob Dog, who plays guitar in Pigface, he's a sitar lunatic. And I had him hire an orchestra for that first album. And put all those songs together. And then I remixed them and put some electronics in there. And, I actually asked him if he would do Opium Jukebox as like an opening act, like a first opening act for 20 minutes for a couple of dates on the Pigface tour. Because I would love to see that and do some cool liquid oil lights and just light some incense and just let him go crazy on the sitar. And I think I need to remind him to do that, actually. I've forgotten about it.
Oh, very cool. Well, before we let you go for the evening, is there anything that you would like to promote or plug that you got coming up maybe this summer or late spring?
So when does this go out?
Really whenever you want, but if we go on a normal schedule, 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay. So there's something going on with my coffee brand at the moment, but that will be over by the time this airs. I have my own coffee through Dark Matter Coffee. It's called Get the Fuck Out of Bed. And they're one of my friends' coffee shop and my other friend's record store burnt to the ground last week. So they're doing a special $5 per bag goes in a fund for those guys. But I guess the biggest thing on my horizon is my PIL book, which I'm finishing up, and then the Pigface tour in November. I think we're really taking care on these VIP packages and honoring our fans. There's also one of the things I'm really proud of. There's one of our tickets is called a Pay It Forward ticket.
Mm-hmm.
and you can buy a pair of tickets. And I just say to people, look, if you're doing well, that's great, but not every original Pigface fan from 27 years ago is doing well right now. If you want to buy a pair of tickets, it's called the Pay It Forward ticket. And if you want to give them to someone yourself, you can. If you just want to leave them in the bucket, for us, when we come across someone on the internet who's having a difficult time, who can't afford to go to a show that Pigface meant a lot to them, just leave it there and we'll take care of it. So I think there's some really good stuff going on with that tour in November. So yeah, I guess if I could promote that would be the thing that I would promote.
And if you, I can put this out this week. I mean, we don't have anything pressing.
No.
If you want to do the coffee thing, where can they do that at? What is that? They just.
If you buy a bag of Get the Fuck Out of Bed coffee from Dark Matter Coffee, $5 from that purchase goes to helping my friends with the coffee shop build a new coffee shop.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah, I don't think. Wait, why not? Let's just let's get this thing released this week, Bob. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll do it, and I'm buying.
Well, hey, I appreciate that. Thank you.
I'm buying some coffee right now on my phone while we're talking.
Very cool. Okay, so
that's great.
This is what we'll do. We will go ahead and get this thing released this weekend. That way, in next week, it will also be broadcast. It'll be available for downloads, but it's also going to be broadcasted on Rock Rage Radio at noon. It'll be not this coming Sunday, but the following Sunday. So it'll be broadcasted as well.
It'll be this Sunday.
Actually, no.
Right.
It should not be this Sunday because of the late.
Oh, that's fine.
The late episode that we have. We just released another episode. So, but it'll be available next Sunday for on Rock Rage Radio.
Send me all the links, and I'll do some social media for you.
I deeply appreciate it, and once again, thank you so much for willing to participate. As soon as your podcast link is available, I will send it to you immediately.
Good deal. Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah.
It's nice to talk to you.
Thank you, Martin. Have a great night.
Okay, you too. Bye.
Bye.
When the black is rough and the sky is choppy, no power in the verse can stop me. Knowing you can't win for trying, man, I'll be holding your odds, I'll be holding your hand. I'll be mooning the blue sun and nuts and I'm good. I'll be saving the day like you knew I would. When the black is rough and the sky is choppy,